Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good morning, good mid afternoon. I'm Doc, and I'm here with numbers. This is typically a wrestling podcast, but fuck all that right now. We're in the middle of the NBA playoffs, and this man, no, American Numbers, Toro as I call him, runs a model website for for the
No,
gambling on.
I have my I run my model in different websites, but I
Yeah,
actually I do run it off my Twitter account. So I've been running a public. We were talking about it. I've been running
yeah,
a public playoff picks, yeah, for my amusement for like a decade on Twitter.
yeah. Do you mind giving them
And it
your handle?
yeah, American Numbers is my handle. There's a joke in there which we can get into later, but like yeah, American Numbers is my handle because I am a numbers man and I am from the Americas, but not necessarily from the U.S. But
We'll
effectively
get that to you later.
the whole yeah, we'll get to that later. But like the whole thing is, I've been running this, and it's funny because like there's a friend of mine on online, Seth Byrne, who does like draft picks and
Yeah.
betting picks. He grabs all these models that are posted publicly, like the ESPN models and all the different models for the different sports, and he
Mm.
tracks how they do against the actual Vegas line. So he's been tracking me for years. And he used to like, he used to give me shit initially because when I first started, I wasn't. I mean, my model wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah.
But like for the past 4 or 5 years, it's literally been lighting up the world. And like so he tracks it every year. He like puts even more challenges on top. Like so he keeps like looking for angles to like make it harder and make more like place more bets. Right now, I think let's see what my results are for the playoffs. It is 20 and 16 on game bets, which means like on picking straight up money lines.
Yeah.
So it's bet 8 units. It's and it has an ROI of 4.6%. It's 3 and 2 on futures, and it's bet 1.7 units, and it's up 16% on that. So it's only, I mean, again, a lot of the futures bets haven't hit yet because the
Yeah.
series are still open. And yeah, the trick to this is my model doesn't just pick favorites. Like it's 3 and 2 because it's picked like four dogs, so four underdogs, and it's won two of them. Two of them it lost, but they were like it put some money on the Heat because they thought it was like there was some margin on there. So it
Yeah.
picks like a big underdog. With big underdog bets, is you're not going to hit a lot of them, but as long as you hit a certain percentage, like 30-40%, you're good. And just I mean like, and this is like in last year, I've got my numbers for last. My last year for numbers is like it went 49-30 on moneyline bets and 9-3 on series bets. And so like the ROI was like I got it somewhere. It's like the ROI was like 18% on 27 units bet, which is extremely good for a model. I am not charging for. I'm just putting it out there. You can do what you want with it.
Yo, I'm
Um,
gonna say personally, I've been I've been using your model since like for about 3 years now, and let me just say like you paid for my new TV, so thank you so much.
Yeah, I get people. I get people. What happens is that people like the models. Like, I mean, again, some people. I sell some of my more better models. I do sell. Like, so I do statistical consulting. Like my main gig. I sell that, but like I have some stuff that I do in the public
Hmm.
because it's a good exercise for me for developing. Like, so I learn shit as I'm doing it. So it's like go out and do the things you love, kids, and then you figure things out, and I can tell them on the other side. Um, and yeah, I mean, like people will send me people will send me tips all the time. Like
Yeah.
basically people send me tips, and I use that to pay for all my wrestling watching and like for all my like subscriptions and for all that shit. Like all my electronic subscription stuff, my cable is all being paid for generally by donations by kindly bettors who enjoy my prop models and my betting models that I put online.
Please, please, people,
I mean, like so.
put money in my man's pockets, please. He deserves
I
it.
mean, like if I only said like I only say that if this is only like I said like if you like it, if I give you like a nice big futures division bet and you like it and you win some money, like people who were really happy because they bet on the Timberwolves or money last night. I was like, yeah, I mean, like if you feel like you enjoyed that, you can $75, man. Like tip your server, man. No, it's like that's a commercial. But like the fun part is like so we were talking a little bit about the Lakers,
Yeah.
and that Lakers Timberwolves because obviously the Timberwolves won last night, and
Yeah.
yeah, tough on the Laker fans, but it's a really funny thing with that team, which is that team, they knew they were missing a center. They tried to get a center from Charlotte. That failed because of like medical reasons.
Yeah.
They knew they were a couple players short, and it's a very funny team because it was a very good matchup for Lakers were a really good matchup for OKC and for like the Warriors
Yeah.
and for kind of like everybody else in the West. But the worst possible matchup they could have gotten was the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves were basically beat to just crush them because the Timberwolves are tall, very physical, and very young. Which
Yeah.
is like so essentially like what happened in all these games is like the T-Wolves would rebound them to death. It's a very Lakers style ball. Like the T-Wolves are very tall, they rebound, they're very tough defensively, and then they're also like I don't know, they got a lot of depth and they're very physical. So by the end of all these games, the fourth quarter, the Lakers would like just run out of steam, and it wasn't really a situation where like these guys are weak. It's like no, they can only play like 5 guys. And like it's 5 guys who are getting beaten up and down the court because the Timberwolves are like a really rough team. So they're kind of like
They were dog walking
like,
them last night, man. It was.
Well,
it was
really
brutal.
hilarious. Like I have this really ongoing thing with Rudy Gobert, where like Rudy Gobert, people were like, oh, he's bad. Like people complain about him being bad offensively, and it's kind of silly because the reason he's bad offensively is because the NBA guys will try to use him like NBA bigs. But if you watch him playing with France, right? So he plays with France, and with France, all he's doing is doing single moves to the basket, which means he gets the ball, he moves towards basket, or passes it off. Or like he's the trailer who comes in and dunks, or he does a one single dribble up, never turns, right?
Yeah.
Never have him turn or dribble side to side. France just has him heading straight down to the basket, and he's devastating in that role. And so like the Timberwolves last night were using him, like he was getting like every possession he got the ball, it was either he's going up to dunk the ball, he's driving towards the rim, and if it's nothing there, he would just pass it out, right?
Yeah.
So dump it in, pass it out, and like the ball would never stop with him. And so if you're using it that way, he was devastated because, like, one, the Lakers didn't have any size to put in front of him, and two, like, he's really efficient. If you put him in that role where he's not, if you don't make the 7-foot guy like dribble side to side, he was like take a big long step toward and try to dunk. And if he's doing that, then it was like really efficient. And it was really bad for the Lakers because like they have to throw guys at him to try to stop him, and then like you're getting him more banged up, and it like gets you the foul. It's just. It was really funny. I'm watching him that this is how you have to use them. It's like I'm wondering how that's going to play out in the next round when they're playing like probably the Warriors, right? I'm really interested in that Warriors Timberwolves series.
Yeah.
If it is, because I kind of feel like my model's going to pick the Warriors, but like God, it would feed my soul for like Rudy Gobert to beat Draymond Green. Like, that would just like make me so happy. Like personally, it would make me happy to see that. But like I'll see what the actual betting lines is. One of the problems for doing this kind of stuff is, and I noticed this, right? So I was like I was doing the round 2 projections, and I went like, let me do the Pacers Cavs, and like the Pacers Cavs number that I came up with when I went to check the line is exactly the number that Vegas came up with, which tells me, Vegas is not dumb. Vegas will get smart. What will happen is like in a series where like there is no like public team, Vegas will come up with numbers similar to mine, which tells me my model is very well tuned.
Yeah.
Because essentially, one of the big differences is going to be like Vegas is going to have the biases from the public built in because they want to draw money on both sides. But I don't have that problem because I don't care. I just want to win the. So like if there is a bias, which there was a bias on the Lakers, right?
Yeah.
So since I know there's a bias on the Lakers, obviously I'm going to bet on the T-Wolves. And if I'm betting against the public, generally, if I'm betting against the public bias with the stats, I'm going to win. It's the simple stuff.
Well, like anybody who was watching up into the playoffs and saw like that first game, you knew what it was gonna be. You saw how tired Luka and Reeves and all them were. It was like, this is gonna be it for like. As someone that's it was a little bit close from here and there, but like still I kind of like was like they're being outplayed. They're gonna be grinded out. It's whatever. It
was the worst possible match. Like if it's been OKC or if it's been Denver, like Denver is because Luka gives the Denver defense fits, right?
Yeah.
And the Denver doesn't really play the big size game. They do have Jokic, but like it's a lot of energy for him to spend to do that.
Yeah.
It ends up being a much more even. Like basically, Lakers can be sneaky when they're playing like Denver, and really you can't. It's not a style fight. It's like styles make fight, and that fight was not for them. And then people are like, "Oh no!" They're like Mr. Like, no, the trade was the right thing.
Yeah.
I trust the Lakers. Like I'm a Celtics fan, but I trust the Lakers organization to find the guys, or train up the guys that they need to fill out the roster. They're gonna do a decent job. And that team's like, it's just they knew, like, this is the funny part is they knew that they were a player short. They knew it. They tried to get that player. It just fell through. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I would say they probably had some bad luck. I think if they get, like, Houston in round one. So if they get, like, Houston in round one, or they get, like, I don't know, basically any other matchup other than, like, OKC and maybe the Warriors, they probably advance out of round one. They probably make the conference finals. Like, depending on, like, the right path. If they got in the right path and avoided kind of, like Minnesota, they probably, like, they maybe end up, like, playing Denver in round two and then taking them to 7. And it's like, so people, like, think about this differently.
Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, they just got the team that's just, like, those built to beat them, right? So it's like, you can't bitch about that too much.
Yeah. Well, let's plug your Twitter.
Let's
plug your Twitter again, man.
Stuff.
Yeah, that's the gambling side. Let's plug it again so that people know where to go.
So American Numbers on Twitter. I will make picks. I'll put the basketball stuff up. I'll put, like, college basketball stuff up. I'll put, like, if there was World Cup coming up, I'll put that up. That World Cup model. God, that World Cup model. I love running that team. Because, like, the big trick on this, and I'll mention this, is and gamblers know this. Like, the ideal betting scenario, right? As a professional, if you're a guy who's a stats guy, like, who understands the number, who understands how the game theory works, you want to play against the dumbest possible people, right? So the bigger the event, the more people that are betting, the better off you're going to be. So the playoffs are great. NBA playoffs are great. NBA season is a pain in the ass because it's you against, like, the fucking sharps who are fucking running teams, like, the degenerates. But when you get into the playoffs, you're getting all these people who, like, they're more the common better. Like, it's the World Cup is ideal that way too, because it's everybody bets the World Cup. Like the NCAA tournament, everybody bets the NCAA tournament. I think, like, my model for the NCAA tournament, I think it probably got, like, what, 4. I mean, I didn't even go back and check it, but, like, I think I may have, like, nailed the Final 4, which I've done a couple times before. But that, sadly, they've actually gotten smarter about that after many, many years of people like me kind of, like, taking advantage of the fact that the season was, like, fucked up. But now, it's nice and solid. But the point being, like, you want to, ideally, if you're doing this, you want to have more information than the average person you are betting against, right? And if you can achieve that, it's easier, the more people are in a crowd, the easier it's going to be for you to be better than the crowd. It's just basically. Right? So, like, if it's just you, like, if you're betting, like, WNBA games, then good luck to you. Or, like, if you're betting, like, straight up matchups for, like, golf. I mean, but if you're betting, like, a playoff series over for the NBA, then I mean, that's fine. You're betting against, like, the crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's the public team? How do I bet against that? Like, that kind of thing. There's a running joke that, like, you can take you basically. I have to go back and check, but I think the under on wins for LeBron teams is, like, something like, I don't know, like 10-2 over the last 12 years.
Damn.
Because people basically because the Laker fans and LeBron fans will tend to, like, overvalue the wins, and this doesn't mean the teams are bad. It's just, like, Vegas knows this and sets, like, a really high number so they can actually, like, so again, what you want to do is bet under, right?
Yeah.
I forget, there's a couple other teams I like that where people, like, they hate this team. Well, you just bet the over or under if you know that people are going to do that. Anyway, so wrestling.
Yeah.
Or other stuff, like you said the topics.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get to the wrestling. We'll get to the wrestling because man, you are one of the most interesting people I've met on Discord. Some of the most. You've had, like, a super super interesting life that you shared on our personal Discord, and I just want to get your story out there, man, because I was telling you before we got on, like, there's written histories and then there's oral histories, and I know, like, you're from Puerto Rico, boricua, and like, I'm Filipino, and I know, like, for us and our, we were both colonized by the Spanish. We both have, like, histories of having, like, that oral history passed down from family member down. And I thought, like, like, who better to record your oral history than me? And yeah, man. So I'll ask my first question is, you told me a story about you and a certain pop star were being babysitted.
Oh, Rick.
Yeah, Ricky Martin. You guys were being babysitted.
Okay, so the Ricky Martin story, right? So like
Yeah.
I'll tell the Ricky Martin story. So that for background, my mom is best friends with Ricky Martin's aunt, right?
Yeah.
And so like, and the story is like, so Ricky and his like the family story is that he and his parents, like his parents were kind of like, well, you know, they're kind of absent parents, like they're not there. So Ricky kind of ended up being raised by his grandmother and his aunt, right? So my mom's best friend was raising Ricky and her sons, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, Ricky, Fillito, is like these are like all like you know, I was friends with. Obviously, since I'm being babysitted by my mom's best friend, like my mom would babysit them, like I would be babysitted by them. They're like little apartment they had,
Yeah.
and so like I'm friends, I'm close with his cousins, right? Who are like you know, he's like the big brother essentially, like he's like 2 years older than me, and
Yeah.
we were like we actually also went to the same elementary school, so like you know elementary school, and the elementary
Crazy.
school that we went to. Like my grandmother was one of the teachers, so she was like one of the older teachers, and like all her friends were like it was my grandmother and her friends were like his teachers, right?
Yeah.
So like it's very kind of like and you know the Cuban families and whatnot. So like yeah, so, I knew the like so I knew to the point where like you know like when he went to the auditions right to for Menudo, like I was like you know you know I was my mom like took us there like we were hanging out with the line and we would go back and like I didn't stay but like and we get like the backstage patches for the shows and whatnot and like you know he showed like there's pictures of him in like my birthdays when I'm a kid, you know it's like you know the kind of thing.
Small world.
So my experience of it like so as my personal experience like so like he was the moody kind of the moody older brother who's kind of a bit of a bully, right? So like I always remember the story like so like we would like he had like we also had like the cool comic books and stuff. So, like we would
Yeah.
go and sneak into his room and like steal his comic books. And I always remember like I always remember the particular comic book
Coño.
who actually like and it's actually kind of funny. The comic book I like he had the Action Comics like The Man Who Has Everything by Alan Moore, right?
Oh.
Like literally he had that, which is like this great Superman story, like Superman like is getting birthday presents, he gets like and I remember clearly because I was reading it's like really cool. I'm like you know, I'd sneak into everybody's rooms like who had comic books. I'd steal them. I'm a big comic book. Like steal my. I mean, I don't think when I steal, I'd take them to read them, right?
Yeah.
And like, I just remember like him being mad, just taking mad, like you know, like he was bullying me and his cousin. But again, it's like, you know, it's like the older brother, like who's got like his cousin, his younger brother, and his friends who are like taking the shit. It's like you know, it's like I'm not judging you harshly because like I was the same way with my younger cousins who were like younger brothers who lived from there, and we would take
Definitely.
each like you know it's like me and my two cousins like who lived my cousins lived in front of my house, so I had my house and their house was in front, my first cousin, and essentially like me and them and my sister are all kind of like brothers and sisters more or less
Yeah.
because we were staying in each other's houses, we would like you know carpool to school, went to the same schools, and like so like and it was like it was me and my two cousins were like really like three brothers. But if you think about it, I'm the oldest, and there's two more, and like we're spread 3 years apart. And the thing with like three brothers is it's always going to end up being 2-on-1, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how, but depending on the day,
Handicap
it's always
match.
going to be two against. It's always going to be the tag match is always going to be 2 versus 1.
Yeah.
So and then, the same thing. Like if they come in and take my toys, I'll get mad. So like the same thing, I would go in and like take his toys, get mad at me, right? So like I would, you know, I didn't have a positive picture of him from those interactions, right? I mean, he
Yeah.
probably doesn't know me. He probably doesn't know me from Adam, right? Because again, like I'm just a friend of his cousins, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, but you never know,
one of
man.
the kids that. I doubt it. I mean, like one of those, like, but like, so my personal experience, like, yeah, he was like the mean older brother of my of like one of the guys like I was kind of like you know raised with,
Yeah.
and so I like kind of knew him from that. Like, and again, he was around because like my mom's best friend would bring him around. And actually, like his grandmother, who's the one who actually really raised him, it was like his mother and his aunt, and his grandmother was my grandmother's best friend too.
Oh,
Um,
damn, that's
that's
cool,
not
man.
even that's not even the weirdest famous people story I have.
Alright.
And this story, I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast. So, okay, so my grandmother, because it reminded me because of my grandmother. So my grandmother lived in this neighborhood in like the really expensive neighborhood in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
My grandfather was like one of the first one who bought it. Like he was a colonel. He like bought that, and both my uncles and like my grandfather and my great grandfather were all kind of like prominent people. Like my grandfather was like the first basketball coach for the island.
Crazy.
And my my grandfather was actually like the big turtle, and then like my uncle, who was my godfather, was the first Puerto Rico federal judge, and his claim to fame was he was the judge who threw Bobby Knight out of Puerto Rico. So he's the guy who, like,
Hey.
when Bobby Knight, he's the judge who basically like threw Bobby Knight out of Puerto Rico in 1979. He's getting out of the way. So like, getting back to my grandmother's house. So like they would, there's houses would, we'd get like these like people coming from the States and moving in.
Yeah.
So the people who moved in front of my grandmother's house were the Phoenix kids, right?
Okay.
So when I said Phoenix, like River Phoenix and like
Joaquin?
what's his name? Joaquin, yes. And so Joaquin's my age. So like I remember clearly I would play at their house. Right?
Oh
like,
shit!
I'm
They're
talking,
Puerto
like,
Rican? I didn't know that.
No, they lived in Puerto Rico.
Oh, they just lived in Puerto Rico. Okay.
Their parents moved to the house in front of my grandparents' house, and so the kids
Okay.
were all my age, right? So I would spend time in their house, and they would
Crazy.
come over to, like, when I was in my grandmother's house. It's like Joaquin. I remember Joaquin like from being like a kid I played with, right? So like he probably doesn't know who the fuck I am. But like I remember him because like it was him and his brothers and his sisters, like, a bunch of kids in that house and
Yeah.
sisters, and they're all living in front of my grandmother's house. And like I would go over and we'd play, and like they'd come over. My grandmother had like the house they had was like this huge house with like this gigantic. When I say like just a massive yard, like a massive front yard, massive backyard, like a river behind it, like just this huge house, right? Like in the middle of the city. It's like so like yeah. I mean obviously like the kids from all around would want to come over and play because you got like when my grandfather's parents' house, like I got the gigantic garden, and like the reason I spent a lot of time there is like my parents were working. My mom got pregnant when I was like really young too, so like
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time at my grandparents, and just so happened that I was spending a lot of time at my grandparents' house. The Phoenix kids were like living there. Like it's funny because like nobody could ever say a bad word about River Phoenix in front of my grandmother.
Mm.
Like when somebody ever said anything about or Joaquin, my grandmother would get fucking mad and feel like because she was like friends with their parents and like she kind of helped them with the kids too, so like really friendly with them when they were saying.
Yeah.
And like so she loved all those kids and like she'd see them on like on the gossip rags and get mad when people talk shit about them.
Yeah.
It was like really funny. It was like she would always get mad, and she was like really defensive of him. It's like just what I was like seeing him as a Joker was like okay.
Yeah.
And again, he probably does not know me from Adam, but like I remember him from being a kid. Just a bunch of weird it's just, Puerto Rico's like very small, and like the things that like you see, it's like I somehow I knew the famous kids. One is the daughter of my mom. Like one is the son. Or like basically the kid who was raised by my mom's best friend. The other one like lived in front of my grandma. So and so like I had contact with them, and again the other one like Ricky was like in the same elementary school like for like 8 years. So I mean I knew I 100% like again they probably don't know who I am, but like I totally knew who they were.
Hey, you never know, man.
I had personal experiences with them. It's like
Yeah.
do you remember the names of the kids you played with when you were like 2 and 3?
Well, because like Filipinos, I was raised with my cousins as my best friend. So like yeah, I do. Also like I do remember my one set of neighbors who are also Filipino, and they kind of married into my family. So like I never got rid of those friends. But you're right. But like elementary school friends, like I don't even talk to anybody from elementary school, high school.
Like the trick is like those kids like lived in Puerto Rico for like a couple, like 2 or 3 years. They're doing the whole the family. It was a missionary family. So they were like a mission. One of those missionary family, like spent time in Latin America and like that very like hippie kind of deal.
Yeah.
So they moved away, but I mean, like, obviously, I'm gonna remember. I mean, my grandmother knew who they were because like, she would see them in the gossip. Like, oh, those are the kids. I'm like, you remember playing with them? Like, yeah, I remember them. And I specifically remember like playing with him and his sisters. Like, I do. And specifically Joaquin, right? I kind of like okay. It's like okay because he's like my age. I'm like okay, that is weird, but and again, I'm assuming he has no idea who I am. And I want to couch that very specifically, but he's like it's like we're both the same age, and
Uh-huh.
like and I mean the brothers were older, and yeah, I mean like, and if you look at where he was born at the Hospital San Francisco in San Juan,
Hmm.
right? So like he was like his family was there like when they were very young. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
That's
it,
a that's an awesome story, man. I didn't know that about you, and that's I knew about the Ricky. I didn't know about Joaquin and River. That goes on to say, I have a question. Like, how often did Carlos Colon get on the TV when you had these kids over at the house?
oh no, I mean like so. I'm gonna say like because they moved away. Like they were 76, 77. So like
Yeah.
I mean I was like maybe 3.
Hmm.
I wasn't really watching lucha regularly until I was like 6.
Okay.
So I really got into like I started getting into it like 1980, right? So like I remember like so the first like my grandparents got cable, like they were one of the first houses that got cable TV on the island.
Oh,
My grandfather was very well connected. So he was like one of the first hookups for cable was his house. And so I remember like the first shit I watched for is like I was watching Georgia Championship Wrestling,
crazy.
and I remember the Wahoo broke his arm.
Oh,
And I was watching that, and they were also showing like the Lucha Libre in Puerto Rico was being shown as part of like the afternoon kitty block. So you watch like Japanese anime and then like wrestling. So I'm watching
ah,
like Go Nagai. Like if people who know, like I'm watching Go Nagai and then like I'm watching wrestling. I was like a 6 or 7 year old. I'm like, God damn, what the fuck? Like what the fuck were we doing? It's like Jesus Christ. Like because Go Nagai is like the like warp. They're like like a Robotech.
yeah.
And
That's not for kids. That's a war story.
yeah, it's like it's very kind of like I'm trying to remember when did they run the Wahoo angle, because like I like and this is the things I remember, like Wahoo breaking his arm. I remember like I mean Carlos working Brody, but Carlos working Brody was like a fairly common thing,
Yeah.
and I just trying to remember specifically kind of like how early uh, it was a broken leg angle, actually. It was a
Yeah.
broken leg angle, and it was like 1977. Wow, that's early. No, but see, I don't like. I remember him referring it, but like, can't have been 77 because I know that it was like 81.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
they always make references in wrestling to like something that happened in the past, especially if it happened
like
in that same territory.
but I remember like the clearest first like wrestling memory I have is Wahoo. Because I mean, like I'm watching cable with my grandparents last time. I'm watching Wahoo, like, and it doesn't mean that was the first wrestling I saw.
Yeah.
Because again, watching the low, but I remember Wahoo, and I remember World Champion Wrestling. And I remember because I was watching cable. Like, it was 81. Like 81 on cable, and Georgia Champions were wrestling, and I know that like I was watching kind of the local Puerto Rico, but like I remember the big angle was, I remember Wahoo as the big kind of, oh wow, look at that guy.
Yeah.
Um, which again, like if you think about it, like the things I'm watching, like Georgia Championship Wrestling, like big old wrestling, and then Puerto Rico, which was like a very Puerto Rico's a very like Japanese adjacent, really, if you kind of think
Yeah.
about it. A lot of crossover. They used to like if you look at the history, like they would run the angles in Japan, they run in Puerto Rico, run in Puerto Rico, and then run them in Japan. So they bring like all the big gaijin guys would like get paid in Japan, get paid in Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
and they would also do versions like we had Muda in Puerto Rico for a while,
I
right?
think he was called
He was
Super
like
Ninja or something,
yeah, but
like
no,
that.
they did him as like a Super Ninja and Muta. He was like he's part of like he was with El Profe, and like the big heel manager was Profe and Hugo Sabinovich. Hugo is the guy who does all the Hugo had the El Ejército de la Inmundicia, which is the army of evil, essentially. And so like he had like I don't know, he had King Tonga, which is Haku. He had
Yeah.
Haku, and he had Abdullah, and he had like yeah, he had a bunch of guys. Like the guys, I mean,
Yeah.
you get like
Those are the same names
you
that
get
were
like the
working All Japan at the time.
yeah, you get all the big old Japan guys
Yeah.
would come over and work the feuds. I mean, Abdullah was working there and would come here. and then Brody. Obviously, we know the stories about Brody and like Stan Hansen, and again but and then the thing about you get a lot more. You get a lot more violent, old school kind of like feud enders in Puerto Rico. There's like,
Yeah.
and they would also like rerun older angles. Like there's a great angle with like in Puerto Rico with like Hercules Ayala, was like a Puerto Rican guy who also worked Africa that came in, and they redid uh, the angle with like he beat like there's an award ceremony, and like Carlos Colon and his wife are wearing all white,
Yeah.
right? Like he jumps Carlos at the award ceremony and like he cuts them and like there's blood like over his suit and the wife he throws the wife and it's like so it's like it's a replay of the Inoki angle with what's his I forget the
Tiger Jeet Singh.
Tiger Singh. So like they
Yeah.
they would redo some of the stuff like and again they would just run stuff like that. They bring the guys from the tag league back and run that. So like we were getting like some really cool shit. And again, I mean the reason you would get that is PR used to run like I make fun of the British guys all the fucking time.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the hop territory of England. I'm like, dude, like Puerto Rico, like I would see like bigger houses. I would see like 5 bigger houses in Puerto Rico in a week that you guys would ever get like in a decade.
To this
Puerto Rico
day.
would run like they would run the big stadiums in San Juan, Bayamon, Ponce, and then like small stadiums. So they're running like 7 dates, and they're like on the big events they would run like they're running like a multiple 10K houses, right? Like even 20K houses, and then like running like the weekly houses of 2,000 because like on the island there's a lot of like venues for boxing and for like bats. They're like Puerto Rico has like a professional basketball league, a professional volleyball league, it has boxing. So like there's every town has like events and like they can draw. Like there's been times when we've had 2 basketball leagues, professional basketball leagues.
Wow.
That draw 2,000-3,000 fans for like a game. And like so they were like and still to this day there's promotions here that draw 2,000, 3,000 a month, right?
That's why I would say to this day because I still feel Puerto Rico is like unfarmed and unheralded, but I still watch the WWC shows that they post on their YouTube, and those crowds are big. And then like there was one clip that I just saw like maybe a year or 2 back that had Carlos and Ric Flair like throwing punches, and you hear like the crowd go crazy, and it's like thousands and thousands of them going crazy for Carlos and Ric Flair blading and punching each other. It's still a hot territory.
Essentially the problem is like the promotions on the island. So like this happened in the States too. Like the promotions in the States, like the unheralded part of how the whole thing that Vince won. So the reason Vince won really was that like the bigger territories got old and didn't have any inherit. So like the LA territory died because the owners of the LA territory all got old and there was nobody to inherit. So like essentially that kind of like so it got weak, and then Vince kind of like bought out like some of the guys, brought them in, and like Blassie and a couple of the other guys, and took over. Like Chicago in the Midwest was Vern, but Vern was kind of he was old and he wanted to kind of make Hogan the kind of next guy, but Hogan didn't want that because he didn't want to give up his Japan money. So like Vince kind of looked into like the fact, and the only guy who really was kind of a money competitor was Turner, and Turner, interestingly enough, I mean Turner didn't lose. Like this is what I said. Like the thing with Turner is Turner didn't fucking lose. Turner turned all his wrestling stuff into like billions and billions of dollars because he used that to like build his TV network and get bought out for billions of dollars and like buy a bunch of sports. So he didn't lose. He just kind of like he got big
pivoted.
Away. He pivoted to something else, and like the people who came in after him were morons who didn't understand how shit worked and like got out of wrestling. And then like wait a second, we shouldn't have gotten out of that because it kind of drew. What the fuck?
And here we are.
Well, like here we are. So like it is really interesting to me, and one thing that is kind of clear is that the alternative brand in the U.S. right now, so AEW and everything AEW does, is a very Puerto Rico promotion, right? And I say that there's a really interesting kind of deal because like there's one of the forgotten figures is Victor Quiñones and Eddie Gilbert and like Heyman. And the guys who were like working and paying for a lot of the kind of Wildcat and Frontier promotions, I mean it's all Victor. Victor is Gorilla Monsoon's kid. And he was the guy who was kind of like, running. He was the money. He's the guy who called in when Bruce Brody was killed.
Oh,
He
oh
was the guy
wait.
who called the radio.
Is that why Gorilla bought a piece of Puerto Rico? Is that his
Yeah,
real
because
kid?
yeah,
Oh,
that is his real kid. Like
oh
Victor
shit.
Quinones is his kid. Like his family acknowledged him. But yeah,
Yeah,
Victor has always been Gorilla's kid, and he was like kind of the guy who knew everybody. He ran the promotions here. He ran FMW in Japan. He was the guy. He was the money guy behind Heyman. He was friends with Gilbert. It's like
yeah.
those like Gilbert, Heyman, and Quinones. The problem is like the two that I would be really interested to get a story that I think that might not lie to me, which are Eddie and Victor, are both dead. So it's like
Yeah.
Heyman. Heyman's always going to tell the story his way
He's
because
a yeah.
Heyman's a fucking Cardi and he's always been a Cardi.
He's the
But
king
like
of
it's really
carnies.
interesting. Like ECW, right,
ECW
is a
and
very
FMW took a lot of the Puerto Rican stuff.
ECW is like so Puerto Rico,
Yeah,
and a lot of that stuff, a lot of the AEW stuff. When I look at it, it's a very Puerto Rico promotion. There's blood, like how they present things, the melodrama, kind of like
yeah,
the whole kind of angles, and like the gay subtext, like which again, that's also that's all coming in from Japan. But again, like as I said, like Puerto Rico is always like it's a lucharesu kind of deal.
yeah,
And really, it's kind of a big melting pot for that because like Mexico really wasn't on TV, and the Mexico stuff has always been more cartoony. Like the thing on Mexico that people don't understand. I actually saw somebody saying this. I think it was Meltzer. He mentioned it. So Titanes en el Ring. So Titanes en el Ring was a thing. It's a kiddie show. But
yeah,
Mexico wasn't doing TV, so there was a kiddie show out of Argentina. Martin Carabazan, which was like people joke about that, but it's like a cartoon wrestling out of Argentina. And it was pretty big. It was syndicated everywhere, and like that's what convinced that's what convinced Mexicans to get back into it and start doing it. And AAA kind of took their cue from what the silly stuff like this is why when you watch AAA is like can be like fucking like nonsense, right?
yeah,
And like again, some with Mexico, we're like we'll have like the Caminito and Camarito doing the little car thing like Mario Kart, which is great. I mean, I love that shit. But like
that's
that's
so
some of that.
cool,
Like
man.
whereas, but if you want like something that's a little bit more adult, and a little more violent, and a little more like that was what Puerto Rico was doing, which is really kind of what AEW does. But like the Swerve Hangman feud ender with like the whole spike. That was like I could totally fucking see Stan Hansen and Carlitos Colon having that match.
Yeah, in
But they
the
just beat yeah, and somebody drives the spike. Yeah, it's total that shit. And some of that was going on in the South, but like the trick is going to be that like in the Southern U.S. they're doing that, but they weren't doing that with the lucha influence, right? So like
yeah,
even it is kind of funny to like hear people like Cornette talk about like that stuff. And Cornette, I've watched the Midnight Express. I know that, and Cornette and the Midnight Express were the most lucha tag, right?
oh yeah,
That there was like
the muscular posing,
they're like
the
the
flying.
muscular posing, the flying, the way Eaton worked.
Yeah,
Like Cornette and how he was the man, like the cartoonish kind of like Cornette, like very much like they were a lucha style kind of tag, and really kind of you watch that, it's kind of funny that they kind of like Cornette just denies that shit, but really if you go look at it, they would do like Cornette gets mad at comedy wrestling, but if you go look at some of the stuff they were doing with some of their heel work, was comedy heel work, which is
yeah,
perfectly fine. Like I think I've shared with you like there's this great Terry Funk working in Puerto Rico. Terry
yeah,
Funk working in Puerto Rico would actually like knew that he should do comedy. He would throw in comedy in the middle of the match, and there's this great match he has with Barry Windham down there. Actually, that match, it's worth it for the entire thing. So he has this great match. It's in Ponce, right? And it's in the basketball court in Ponce. It's like sell at house, like 10K plus, and like they're playing with there's actually like spots with like concrete blocks. They're like there's a hoop. They fucking take a bump off the hoop. Like Funk is doing comedy on the outside. And it's like a really fucking and like Barry Windham. This is like Barry Windham. This is like if you watch that match, you're like Barry Windham. This is the Barry Windham that people are like, oh, this dude might be one of the best wrestlers in the world. It is that is like
oh.
a time capsule of him as the best wrestler in the world.
So like the Ric
And then
Flair era Barry first title shot.
yeah, I know. But this may be like
Yeah.
you got to watch it because this may be Barry Windham. You're just like holy shit,
Okay.
like this is him at like there's no diminishing speed. It's great. It's working fuck.
Right.
And that also like it's really great because there's a promo that Funk cuts after this match. So this is an incredible match, great vibe. The crowd's going crazy. Funk wins, and then he's advanced to the final two. Like he's fighting Martel next. So he walks up, he grabs, he goes to Hugo Savinovich, who's the interviewer,
Yeah.
and he grabs Hugo Savinovich by the back of his neck, right? Like just like he throws his hand out, like and just literally just grabs him like a kitten. Like he grabs the back of his neck, and you see kind of Hugo cinch up, right?
Yeah.
And just like he just cuts this promo on Martel and his dead brother, right?
Oh.
It's like the promo is like it's a master class of like it's just he just it just
Talk about evil, man.
He does like well no because like and that just that like, little gesture where he just grabs like just he's not even like it's not even overt. He just like grabs him by the back of the neck, like I can kill you if I want, right? And like Ugo sells it personally. Ugo's like Ugo's selling it like he is deathly afraid of Funk going crazy. And Funk cuts this mad promo on like Rick Martel and his dead brother. His brother just died, so he like goes off on him and the wrong Martel died and like this whole it's just like
Heat.
and it's just like and the crowd is going insane, right? But it is just like the perfect like just honestly I'm watching it's like it's one of my favorite promos of all time. That like because he just understands, right? He just and again it's all the little subtle things that he does, right? And it's really kind of and here's the thing, as I mentioned, he worked comedy in the match. Like so he threw comedy into that. Like and again, Flair would throw in comedy like but he threw in like comedy bits on the outside. And then he cuts like one of the most evil heel promos I've ever seen. And the crowd is just like completely into it. And I'm going like, people complain about like they just people like and the crowd just completely understood the performance, if that makes sense, right? So there's people get mad and like fail to understand how this works. And hey, man, like if you get how something is set up and you buy me and you sell me, that's how you do it. It's like it's the thing I bitch about. Like when I talk about like the not bitch about when I talk about like how the women in AEW have improved. So I'll say this: how the women in AEW have improved is like when I'm watching the women's matches in AEW, they never take me out of the performance.
Yeah.
So they're like I'm never watching them and I realize that they're counting steps, or I realize that they're lost. Like no, they're kind of flowing from and maybe kind of sloppy, but even when it's sloppy, they're still in the performance. Right? It's like they stay within kind of like, and that is really kind of tricky, and that's kind of really the next level for wrestlers.
Yeah.
And like when you're watching like women in WWE, they're always counting steps, they're always repeating things, and I almost never get into and lose the fact that they're performing. If that makes sense.
Yeah. There's like you see it counting on with their eyes and in their head, and like you in AEW you like see stutter steps here and there, but it kind of works into the match because in a real fight nothing is gonna look perfect. Some things are gonna look off.
No, but I mean, like,
and that works for me. I need stuff to be off.
I'm watching Anna Jay and I'm watching Penelope Ford now, and like Anna Jay, even when she like and Harley Cameron, I love Harry Cameron because Harley Cameron never breaks kayfabe when she's in the ring, right? She can fuck up, but she never breaks. Like it's the trick is like she never breaks out of the fight thing. Like and again, she's not like her top level. She's not quite there yet, but like. Intellectually, she never takes me out of the match, and that's really like. And this is kind of like the thing that always like gets me, like when I watch the Puerto Rico stuff, like it feels like they managed to make it feel real because they don't break out of character. If that makes sense, Abdullah's never fucking breaking out of like Abdullah's sloppy, but Abdullah will never fucking break character, right?
Yeah, I was watching him and Zeus fighting in the rain, and they didn't even let the rain.
Oh, yeah, I remember that match.
They didn't let the rain bother them. They didn't let the batteries being thrown at them by the crowd bother them. They were just working. He was just working.
Yeah, Abdullah's great. Like Abdullah in Puerto Rico's great. He'll be like fighting and like and he'll see somebody with a chicken box. The chicken box that they would sell these like white boxes with fried chicken and like plastic utensils. And Abdullah will grab the box. Eat the chicken, throw the grease all over everybody's face and use it as a weapon, then grab the fork and use it as a fork and a hop. It's like great.
I love it.
Like Mox actually like I know Mox like does shit like this, and I know he learned it down there because again it's part of you got to figure out how to kind of like integrate everything into the story, but also kind of like it's like wrestling as an art. Like you have to be able to improv, but you have to understand. Like as acting, like this is why like a lot of like really good wrestlers become actors and are successful because the really great ones, right, have to understand how to live the gimmick and how to be consistent. Like, Batista, and I know Batista. This is why directors love him. Batista doesn't break character, right?
Yeah.
Batista
That's my
inhabits the
idol, man.
character, and he's there, and he doesn't fucking break kayfabe, right? And he's
Yeah.
fucking great because if you're a director and you've got him like in a production where people are improving, like you're doing one of these like the Glass Onion movies,
Yeah.
like I mean like
He
he's
was,
the character, and like if people start improving, Batista's not gonna he's going to keep the scene on point because he's gonna stay in character. He's gonna understand that because he knows how to improvise, kind of like in a dynamic environment. Like this is kind of what makes them great.
Yeah.
Right, and this is why like these wrestlers like keep like the top level wrestlers keep getting work because like I mean even Cena like if you've seen him some of the stuff Cena's great because Cena can like he will what's the name of the show he's doing on Amazon that was great, the double dick thing that's like just
Oh yeah.
so I've seen him.
Ricky Stenicki.
You know what I'm talking?
That was
Ricky Stenicki.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, because like he can kind of
Yeah.
he's great. He can fucking go with the flow of the scene and like really top level wrestling to me. Right? If I'm watching something like that, then it's a person who has he understands the character and keeps it moving, keeps him involved. Like Swerve and Hangman right now are probably two of the best because and Swerve Swerve has actually grown.
Yeah.
He used to kind of like not inhabit the character as much, but I think over the past 4 or 5 like his time in AEW to like I think probably around when he was doing the Will Ospreay feud. He now like just lives it. Like he lives that character, and it's the same thing with Hangman. Where like Hangman, just the little nuances, the little behaviors, kind of like he's living the character the entire way, and it really fucking works because it like that level of care, that level of involvement, kind of makes me much more. This is kind of why I'm there. Like this is what I want to watch. I want to be lost in the fiction. I want to be lost in the story, and this is kind of like what always like this is why like I can't handle WWE because no, I mean like I've come to the conclusion that I've only gotten into WWE when WWE goes against what they are, right? But when they're in trouble and they have to like do stuff that's against what they want to be, then yeah, it's fine. But really, at the heart, they're basically like a comedy cartoon promotion. They're not like it's not very involved. It's like targeted to like like a very like kids or like a very simple storytelling level.
Yeah.
And they're not. I mean, and the characters are just not going to be what I want. I want something where like I believe. I mean, it's funny because I'll watch DDT.
Yeah.
And DDT does the same thing, but DDT kind of like it's the difference between American cartoons and like anime, where like DDT does that shit, but this is kind of like they'll be like anime. They'll take some things to 11, which makes it cooler, and then like they'll take something simpler and makes it nicer. Whereas like I'm watching, WWE, and it's all kind of like
Yeah.
I didn't even bother with this WrestleMania.
Dude.
Because like I was like, this is, like they did it. They did this WrestleMania during the first week of the basketball playoffs, and I'm like, there's no fucking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm struggling to keep up with like the stuff I like. I'm not fucking loving WrestleMania.
Yeah. There's like only one real bright light in WWE, and that's Jacob Fatu, and he's the only one that's over without them even trying. And like,
but they're not. But they're never gonna put the.
Yeah.
See, it's funny. It's like I always I joke that like, or no, it's not a joke, but so the old man, and I mean by the old man, is Vince's dad. Like Vince's dad understood that the guys who get over in that territory are the working class heroes, right? And I think Vince has gotten that right a couple times with Stone Cold, and with Hogan, right? The ethnic kind of hero, and. Here's the thing, I think, and people are like, oh, Fatu has a felony. Like, here's the thing, I think Fatu, like this is like WWE should have hired Eddie Kingston and made him the biggest star in the world, right? Because like, and I think Vince's dad would have, because he would have seen, hey, this Latino working class rough and tumble guy who cut promos, and like has these like beautiful eyes, and like people just like, and like Eddie should have been the biggest baby. Like if Eddie been born like 30 years earlier, he would have been the biggest star in Europe, right? Because like they would have seen him and they just said like. I gotta put him on top because he's like a cooler version of like Pedro Morales. Like Pedro Morales is a huge star, partly because he's Puerto Rican, but like Eddie Kingston is like Pedro Morales is way better, right? Like better promo, like and Mona, like people in Puerto Rico get mad at me, but like no, but he's better because he had a little bit more of the rough and tumble kind of working class. He looked like a guy who'd come in and like do your floors,
Yeah.
right? But here's the thing, that actually works in that territory. And so getting back to Jacob Fatu is like, even though he has this, like the fact that he actually has this history with like, oh, the felony and kind of like the rough and tumble past,
Yeah.
shit, they should want to make him like the biggest babyface star in that territory because like their
There's
core
a
crowd,
redemption
their
story.
crowd,
Yeah.
no, but he's like they're gonna be like, this is the guy I could have a beer with, right?
Yeah.
He's so cool, and he's like me, right? And that's a story that you can fucking sell. And like, if I were them, I'd be like, no, this is the guy I gotta make a star. And like, the fact that he has this past actually makes him even more appealing, right?
Yeah.
And it makes him like, oh, this makes him even more interesting to my audience because what my audience want, like, give him a redemption story, give him a guy who's like a cool guy who's like rough and tumble and like me, like, yeah, he should be like the biggest star in that promotion. But they'll never do it because like they get in their own fucking way, but like they don't kind of understand what they run into these stories by accident. They ran into the Sammy story by accident.
Yeah. And
Sammy's
again,
another guy
with Sammy, you got like another ethnic hero. But that's the thing that I keep like seeing like in WWE. They have these guys that get hot like a Sammy, or like right now it's Fatu is getting hot because he's out popping like everybody on that show, and like sometimes it's like having that everyman aspect to him is what really gets you over, because you do like what you said, they connect to the audience, and there's like something about that the everyman.
Think about the guys who got the huge. I mean, like Hogan was like the Irish working class hero in a way.
Yeah.
That was the kind of margin for that. And then you have like, Randy, who was like, Randy was like the guy operating the Land of Giants, and like he had the background, and Randy was just like a very kind of like appealing guy.
Yeah.
And then
The outfits
Steamboat
are crazy,
got over.
man. Yeah.
Cena's very kind of like Boston working class, right?
Yeah.
Boston working class white rapper guy, and like that's kind of what he got over. And like obviously Stone Cold, who's like the fighting the man, and like Cody. I mean, Cody, people relate to his father son story. People make fun of the whole thing, but people relate to the father son thing and the father son story, right? And that makes him kind of like, and then having to go off and like make something of himself because like WWE didn't get it, and that's kind of a relatable story.
That's
and really it's kind of like it's why they they looked at the Shield and thought that like Roman was the guy instead of Mox, who obviously was the guy getting pops and had the classic ethnic, like honestly it's we're lucky as fans that they missed on Mox, because if they hit on Mox, I don't think AEW happens, right? Because I don't think they get in the spot they got in, where it's like maybe it does, but it doesn't happen as well as it does.
I don't think
we don't get the guys like,
WBD doesn't give them the chance without having a Mox on board, because Mox at that time, people are crazy, because Mox at that time, it was Mox and Roman. They were the two guys at the time.
The story goes that Khan wasn't just talking to Mox; he was talking to Bryan too. So he was talking to Bryan, he was talking to Punk. I think as long as the Cody and all like the all in part happens, I think you get it, even if you don't get Mox. The thing is, it's tougher if it's Mox on top, because I think WWE is over. So you're going off against WWE is over, not WWE it's looking a disaster. Although it's kind of tricky because the reason is like Pat died, and like Vince and the people who were running it didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And I think even now you see it, because now they've gone for like they got lucky and they got the two babyface angles, right? They got gifted the two babyface angles, and now they're at a place where like I don't see who their guy is to like because they're like, oh, Braun Breaker, but Braun's not. My take on Braun is, okay, so how do you get him to like be the cool babyface on top? Because again, this is a bit like the thing WWE doesn't understand is that they're babyface territory. Like their territory wants to have like a big ass babyface conquering hero, because that's what that's what get over is like Cena wins again, Hogan wins again, right? And Austin outsmarts the evil bosses. That's like the things that like sell for them. And like I don't know how they get to like, I mean, I guess theoretically, I mean, you can get Jacob Fatu there, you can get Sammy there, but I don't believe that they're going to do either one, right? So like I don't know what they're kind of. Oh, they're going to put Braun on top. Like how is Braun? See, the way I kind of see it is Braun is too close to like Braun Breaker is too close to what Braun Strowman was. Braun Strowman should have been at one point like their biggest babyface star. But when they went to go with that, they went with the dumb babyface model, right?
Yeah,
Dumb babyface who gets outsmarted, right? And that model doesn't really work, right? You can't, it has to be their faces have to be faces that are like outsmarting the like almost heelish faces, right?
yeah,
Cena and Hogan were kind of like people weren't getting over on Cena and Hogan, right? Or like on Austin, and that's the thing that like they kind of like, and even on Cody, people weren't getting over on Cody. Right? Like Cody lost them, but like people weren't getting over on him, not really, right? And for some reason, I've devolved into talking about WWE. WWE is like the least interesting. It's the least interesting. I don't want. It's the least interesting wrestling to me. It's always
yeah,
been like something like the kind of stuff I like is I like stories where tell people who like make me believe the things are there, and again, I want to see the best possible guys working the best possible angles. Right?
yeah,
So that's like it's been AEW and then before AEW started. I was kind of doing recaps from WWE and then like doing all around the world stuff. So I was watching Japan and everything else,
yeah,
and coming in and out. But like AEW's been more like, oh, this is like me watching like even in the middle of the NBA playoffs. Like I haven't watched last night's Dynamite, but I will. Like I watched last week's Dynamite last night, so I caught up because like and like today we get 2 games. I think tomorrow we get 1 game. So I think I have like a nice little break next 2 days to catch up on like that. But I mean I love stuff like tell me work me. Like, give me a story like what Tony Storm is doing. Give me a story like what Heyman is doing.
yeah.
Like, make me kind of involved and invested and you tell me fun stories in the ring. Do like matches that like make me feel things, right?
Yeah, that's the trick for TV wrestling.
I think I've gotten way meaner. Go ahead.
Because that's the trick for TV wrestling. You need to have that investment in order to keep tuning in every week. It's like when you watch Batman, it's same Batman time, same Batman plate channel, whatever. They would drive the story to make you keep watching over and over again.
I do think that like I've argued that they should, and I think they've done some more of that, which is they should have titles and angles that are work for TV.
Yeah.
Right? And I know they're doing everything for the pay-per-view, and it's actually worked out really well if you look at their pay-per-view numbers. But having some hooks and some regular things are helpful. Having identities and good matches. I do think like somebody and people were bitching about this, like where Brian Alvarez was saying like, oh, you have to have recaps. Here's the thing. There's some of that. Like I wish and I've said this. They should have like a premium like shorts show that takes me like gives me the highlights of Collision and Dynamite and have it on HBO. So if I'm paying for HBO, give me a highlight show. I'm paying for HBO, so I'm paying for a highest tier service. Give me an hour highlight show so I can just fucking watch that.
You know what they're doing on their YouTube is they're doing a 5-minute recap. They're doing that. They've been doing that lately.
Right, but that comes from like there's guys who do recaps of the show. Like, of like the Raw and SmackDowns. They'll do like a 40-minute cut of the shows on YouTube. That's been going on forever. But I mean, like I'll sit down and watch. Like what I'll do is I'll sit down on Max is great. I'll sit down on Max. I'll watch it. I'll skip shit, so I'll be like, and then I can watch a 2-hour show like maybe now. And I skip shit, like sometimes if it's a good match, I'll watch it. I'll always watch a good match, but sometimes I'll be like, I don't really necessarily want to watch a squash match. So
when I hear that MJF fart music, I just go fast forward moment. And then my life is improved. That's my life. I'm sorry.
The Hurt Business. He's doing the Hurt Business stuff, and I kind of watch it. What I'll do with the Hurt Business stuff is I'll watch it in the background.
Yeah.
Like I like last night I was watching the Hurt. I was watching that while the Lakers were getting their ass kicked. So it was great. The Lakers were getting their ass kicked. I was watching it. I had that in the background. I was watching Anthony Edwards stomp while I was listening to that. And then I actually did watch the hater. Chris Stanton. That was actually a pretty good match.
Yeah.
It was a little short, but I understand why it was short. I think they left a bit in the tank. I like the ending of that match a little bit.
That her switch up on the lariat she does, it's killer. And she's like trying to kind of doing it kind of like a diamond cutter thing where it comes out of nowhere with all the variations. I'm digging Hater again. I mean, I never stopped digging her. So the match with Mercedes is something that I'm looking forward to.
It's good that they got to take something for her face because like she had she always had like the problematic, like it looks like she was either using the wrong makeup, so she would always have like these really bad reactions. Yeah. It does look like they've cleaned that up. Whatever she's taking now is good, and it's like look, I mean like, and I said like it's like look, if I'm to get the women, using, if she's allergic to the makeup, don't have her using the makeup. Like, get her better makeup. Like, get her, like, because she's a very pretty woman. Like, get her, like, so she can be comfortable, whatever she's wearing. Now she's, she looks way healthier, and that's appreciated. It's like, I focus on these things. Like, I focus on the gear sometimes, and not even in the second. Like, I'm like, like, wear gear that makes sense and makes you look appealing as a character.
Yeah.
Right? And I found that, like, sometimes you'll see that, like, why the fuck is that person wearing that? Like, oh, they're wearing, like, these, like, huge, like, the fishnets. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really look that great.
Yeah.
Like, we're, like, I don't know, like,
accentuate the positives.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It's like, it's the same thing. Like, it's like, it's dress for the job you want. It's like, oh god, who was like, oh, Private Party. God, Private Party had the worst gear, like jobber gear. It's like, dude, just
leather
like,
pants and mesh tank top. My god, why?
it's like, dude, like, like, present yourselves like champions. Present yourself like an actual top act. Like, do some work. It's like, it's annoying to me.
Yeah.
Like, this again, this is theater. Like, so, and you gotta present an image, or you gotta present yourself in a way. It's like, this is one of the things that used to annoy me and the fuck out of me for, like, Adam Cole. Although he's gotten way better now. Like, Baby Man. Like, I'm not the biggest Adam Cole fan in the world, but, like, now he's presenting himself in a way that, like, oh, he's serious about this, right?
Yeah, he stopped.
You're on TV.
Yeah, he stopped spray painting over his knee pads. I'm not sure if you saw that, but when he
I know, I remember.
Goodness.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, whatever. I was joking about this, but, like, I don't know if breaking up with Britt has actually been good for his health in general. Probably. He just looks way better. Like, whatever he's doing, like, now that he's new life, like
yeah, he has like a kind of a shine to him now, which he looks happy. It's like good for him.
Yeah, again, I'm not the biggest fan of his work per se, but like, it was actually kind of funny, like, about when he came back, and I remember this was like, I actually watched him. There's the ladder match from NXT, 5-star match from NXT.
Yeah.
Which is legitimately a match that, like, I was going back and I was going, like, I gave it 5 stars when I saw it live. I forget which takeover it was, but it was like it's him, it's Adam Cole, Ricochet,
EC3,
Lars, the weird Lars, and the big old weirdo who's looking at everybody in the Europe. I forget what his name is.
Velveteen or whatever. Is that Velveteen? I don't know.
Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream, a guy who should, like, honestly had all the tools, was just a fucking weirdo.
Oh, yeah.
He legitimately is a guy who should have been a star, but, like, he was a fucking weirdo. But that match, I was, like, going back and expecting that match not to be a 5-star match, and I went back and rewatched that match. I was like, fucking hell, that match is a 5-star match.
Whoever agented that is like a genius. I'm not sure to put all those different styles together. That's
the thing about that match is Adam Cole and Ricochet are flying around in that match.
Yeah.
And they are moving like they're just flashing around the screen. They're so fast and so good, and it's entirely on them kind of carrying that match because they're so good. And it's kind of like funny to watch that match and then watch Adam Cole in AEW and go like, what the fuck? Because he didn't look close. Like, the difference in speed, it looked like he was moving at 25% speed, and now he's actually, like, starting to get back to that. Ricochet still moves at that speed, right?
Yeah.
Or close to it, but Cole just wasn't that guy anymore when he came into AEW, and he hadn't been that guy in a while. Like, and now he's starting to kind of get there. I mean, again, I still have my issues with him, but he's getting to the point where, like, oh no, he can kind of, like, work that. I don't necessarily like his offense, but he can kind of do that. Like, Ricochet is brilliant because now that he's doing the heel shtick, his bumping is so good, and he just makes that, like, again, that match. It's the match that I was expecting to go back and, like, this is not a 5-star match, and I go back and, like, no, that version of Adam Cole, that version of Ricochet, just delivered just a massive performance. And everybody else is okay. Like, the other guys in that match are competent, but the match is made by those two guys just bumping around like crazy people. It's just insane.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny that Cole's never really had that.
Yeah, he has and he's worked guys that are able to get that out of you. He's worked Ricochet. He's worked
I just don't think he's never. I just think he's never been healthy in AEW to like the level. Like he was broken down by the end of that NXT thing, and he really.
Because they were
It's kind of
doing
funny. It's
house
kind of funny to
shows
watch.
then. They were doing the house shows, and they when that at the time in the NXT when he came in, they were doing the marathon tapings, and on the marathon tapings, he'd be working these hard matches, like back to back to back. So it's kind of understandable how he would break down in that working all those
I
matches
also,
in succession.
yeah, and I also think she's like some of the conditioning stuff that I know that Britt's supposed to be doing is actually supposed to be really bad too. So like, I
Yeah.
think that a combination of like he's now working with like Roddy and those guys probably, and that's probably where because like Roddy's the guy. If you look at Roddy's the guy who's working like I love Roddy. I think Roddy's actually one of the best workers
Yeah.
alive right now.
He's sort of
He's
in a
like
time
way
capsule.
Well,
He's-
I mean,
yeah.
his actual character work is kind of shitty, but it's like some of that, like what they give him. But when you actually get him in the ring, he's so fun. Like, there's this great match he worked with Commander, which is like, oh my god, some of the stuff some of the matches he's worked, his level of work is so insane. I think there's that Commander match. I know there's a pay-per-view match with Briscoe, which is just like, it's just such good work. I think he also did like a. I remember him doing what was it, like a 3-way with Takeshita, and I forget who else. Like the match where like the match with Takeshita and Briscoe, and I think he's in that match too. The international, like there's some like the level of work that some of these guys are doing, and I wish AEW would push more. Like
I mean, I like Kyle and Roddy back
TK,
together.
TK,
I like that they're back
TK's in
together.
love with like, but it's funny because TK's in love with pushing Cole and like Roddy and like the guy who's like and Kyle. No, the guy who's actually like the best worker of all three, like by far, is Roddy.
Yeah.
Right? Roddy's like I'd have him like just close. Again, the problem is like you have to manage. Like he can be such a fucking geek, but his actual work is insane. Briscoe's work is insane. Like
Briscoe.
there's guys like
Briscoe is like you were talking about this earlier, but Briscoe is like every man. He looks like the fans who are in the arena. He has like that mentality, that tough man mentality,
the
and
Briscoe
he is so
like,
relatable,
sadly,
man.
Briscoe should have been like the biggest, and I know WWE at one point thought about bringing him in, but honestly, they should have been like the biggest tag team in the world and one of the biggest acts in the world. And I mean, I understand why they like. It's just a really kind of sad thing that never happened because again, they're so relatable, and so good, and such good workers, and even like I said, Briscoe's still like Briscoe. God, I remember like it just reminded me like that him and Takeshita working. And it's like I forget what the pay-per-view was. They're working like international, and there's like that entire like the only thing I remember out of that match is I remember all the spots that Takeshita and Briscoe did together, that are just like there's a table spot that's like in like all the stuff they did. It's just so good because these are like two of the best workers alive, just doing shit. Like, and it's funny that like AEW probably has a majority of the top 10 workers alive just in the building.
It's insane. It's an insane roster.
Ospreay, Ospreay, Fletcher, Hangman, Swerve, Omega, Briscoe, Roddy,
Bandito.
Beast Morton. No, I mean like
I like Bandito.
I wouldn't put Bandito on the top. But Bandito's not the worker. Like Mordos is like.
Mortals, you put him in there with anybody, and we saw that in the C2.
Mordos might be the best base I've ever seen in my life. Right? He's so fucking like. There's this great spot where he like the first hologram match where hologram drives out of the ring.
Yeah.
Mordos catches him in the air and just like does the thing where like he just moves. He just does things that you're like, holy shit! Like he is such a good base. Especially like he just makes everything just look so great.
He's sturdy.
Like, I didn't get into. Yeah, he's fucking insane, and like, as I was thinking about it, like it's kind of funny because like, okay, so who are the best workers who aren't in AEW right now? Like male workers who aren't in AEW, or like will never like. Right now, I mean,
it's pretty much for me.
What's the name of the guy from? What's the name? Oh God, what's the name of the guy from All Japan?
Which one? Kento Miyahara?
Miyahara's a good name.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say Takeshita for New Japan because Takeshita is working in AW.
Yeah.
Shingo could show up, and he's not working at that level anymore.
Yeah.
Not really.
Suji's not there yet, but he's almost there. But Suji is more like a vibes wrestler than a great wrestler.
Yeah, but he wouldn't crack. He wouldn't
He's
crack
not
that 9 I gave you.
No.
Like Finley maybe,
Yeah.
and Gabe Kidd, but even both those guys still aren't like. I would still say that Roddy's a better worker than both those guys.
I mean, we're
Right?
we're we're just missing the champion. Goto is like having like an all-time year in his twilight years. It's insane.
Would you put Goto over Roddy or Mark or Morris
No,
as a worker?
I would see that maybe
Zach,
he's
I mean, like,
like okay,
I'd throw it back.
like the black mark against Roddy is all the character he did in AEW.
It's
That
correct.
fucking killed him.
Exactly.
That killed him.
Yeah,
Like his aura is
his
gone.
character work. His character work is shit. I'm talking about like straight up. Like, and I think some. I'd throw Go. I think Goto is having a year where I would throw him in there probably.
Yeah.
It's tricky
hard,
because
dude.
I know that.
It's hard as far
I
as
know
like
that-
if you think about all-time workers, it's hard. It's like
Would you? Who's doing better work? Goto, Hangman, or Swerve?
it's Hangman. Hangman
And
is
Swerve
is not a
Swerve-
slouch. He's not a slouch. He's
Swerve,
putting in work.
Like,
but
and even Ricochet, Ricochet's having a throwback year where
yeah.
he's like really fucking good and some of the, so it's like I'm like the level of work that we're seeing, like the amount of like top tier workers that we're seeing in this promotion is kind of like completely off the rails.
on free
Like,
TV.
I don't know. There isn't anybody who's stepping into AEW from like outside of AEW who immediately is like a top 5, top 10 guy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Beatball
why like
was a guy who
we're seeing
People's
Okada
the
in the
guy
mid
who's
card.
People's the guy who was like getting kudos 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and he's what, like maybe in the top 15 for AEW. And here's the thing, he's been good, but I would not throw him into like the top tippy top tier.
Yeah.
Like the workers company. Like, and we haven't even mentioned Darby, who I will argue that Darby may be the best TV worker ever, honestly,
Yeah.
based on his output.
There's
And I still think that the Darby Will Ospreay match would maybe my favorite TV match of all time. Like if I get to break it into time categories, because I can separate Hangman, I can take Hangman and Brian and Kenny and Brian separate into separate category. But as a 15-minute match, it may be my favorite 15-minute match ever. It's just like very simple premise. They're working around that huge back bump. Right?
Yeah.
Darby takes that insane bump, and they work everything around that bump. And just Ospreay and Darby just like fucking killing that.
they just go. They just go. There's no slowing down. I mean, they're selling from the back bump. There's that selling, but like there's no slowing down.
And it's all worked around that, and it's just like a really I like a match that is very straightforward. Like it's very understandable, it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
It's worked perfectly, and you're like invested. And the crowd is molten. It's fucking great. It's like a match that it's just a perfect TV match.
Did you ever watch?
There's like the long.
Did you ever watch the Takeshita Darby match, where he treats Darby like the Yoshiko the sex doll? That's one of the craziest matches I've ever seen. I've never seen a human being be able to be bent and thrown like that, like how Darby did, and still like show up the next week. He like takes a chaos theory German down the ramp. I've never seen that ever, because nobody's crazy enough to take that bump, because you're taking like 3 like back of the head bumps in a row, and that's like. Yeah, Darby is like one of the.
I think
he's like one of the top tiers, man.
My moment when I realized that Darby was like insane. It's like there's the Sting, Shingo, Darby versus the Bucks and ELP.
Yeah.
From Forbidden Door.
Yeah, that's the first.
If you go back and watch and Darby's and ELP does a good but Darby is flying like a crazy person that match, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that, those matches with Sting, I mean, again, part of that is Sting is a really good tag worker, and he always was a really good tag worker.
Yeah.
He makes it work. But Darby just bumps like an insane person. Like Darby just moves in a way that just transcends. And really, again, this is why that Ospreay match, because both of them understand that this is what they're gonna sell the crazy bump, and they're gonna sell the speed. And it is such a good match because of that. And that's kind of again, simple ideas. Matches don't need to be that complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's
as long you need to have the best matches need to have a through line. Right. That's kind of there needs to be something for me to kind of dig into or remember or understand, and like don't take me out of the equation.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to think of like I mentioned I was talking about WWE. It's like I'm trying to think of the last time I thought like a WWE match was great. Like, oh man, this is a great match, and like I'm gonna remember it.
The last time for me, that's Brock and Bryan. That's the last great match from that company. That.
I like that. I like I like the Bad Bunny match.
Oh yeah,
Bad
Bad Bunny and
The Bad Bunny
Damian.
match.
Yeah, that was a.
The Bad Bunny Damian match. But again, that because it's a silly, but it's a fun match. It's a silly match, but it's a fun match.
It's a very Puerto
And
Rico
understood
match.
through life. God, I remember the Wendy Chu Tiffany Stratton match, which was actually like in NXT. I'm a weirdo, but that match is actually really good.
Okay.
That match they're doing like this. They're doing this take on the. It's like a take on the Britt Rosa match, right?
Yeah.
And they use Legos and stuff. It's actually like a really kind of interesting. Because it's like both of them are into it, and it's actually like so it actually kind of works.
Yeah.
I wonder if Saray was floating around. I wonder if Saray had anything to do with like agenting that match.
Well, like during that time, I think Meiko Satomura was heavy in the training for the girls, and also they would send some of the girls to Sendai to go to experience the dojo.
They had Meiko and they had Emmy. Sorry, Meiko and Saray. Like in that room, and I know they like so. Like I wonder, like because there was a bit of time there where like the top level tier matches in NXT were it's like very heavy comedy NXT, but the matches were actually like the top level matches were really good.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore.
Brother,
that's not the case anymore.
Brother, I gotta send you some Sendai girls. Because if you watch it, there's a lot of like. It's in a dark room, and then there's a lot of like angry scowls from beautiful women. I think you're gonna love it, honestly.
I mean, like my thing with like Joshi is like I like the really high level stuff, but like the lower like I'm not gonna get like so like I watched the All Japan women. I love the All Japan women.
Yeah.
I love the higher tier stuff and the top matches. Like I thought, like but I'm like I'm gonna my level of patience with Yoshi can be short. Like I've never been a Riho guy, right?
Yeah. Well,
some of that because it gets hard for me to my disbelief with her. I've seen some good matches with her, but she can kind of take me out because she's so small, right?
Yeah.
It's like a mini was working the guys, and like I'm like, it can kind of break me. Like now you give me Saray like pound the shit out of something, yeah, that's great. Like oh yeah, it's like because they'll like I need to invest and buy into kind of the action.
Yeah,
it's kind of my thing, and so yeah. I mean, I enjoy the top level Joshi, but I can be like some of the sillier stuff can kind of like.
Yeah. What I'm telling you is like these aren't girls; these are women. These are women fighting.
Okay.
So I'll post it up on the metric. You'll see. A lot of times on my show, I always ask people how they got on the internet, and you have actually a really interesting story about that.
I mean, like how I got on the internet. Like what? I mean, that was the first time when I mentioned like we had like, so we get on the internet like in our high school computer labs, so like fancy private high schools. We'd be able to get on the internet like in like 1987 on that. I mean, like a very like. BBS.matrix, very like simple. But like I was mentioning is like I was on this thing called the Athena Project, which was a thing that MIT was doing for creating educational tools for the web, and so what people were using it for like sending themselves dirty pictures and like playing online Apple Talk games. Like seriously, like the whole story is like I remember the whole story, the original about the JPEG format, or the GIF versus GIF thing. I literally was there for the initial arguments on the BBS for the guys arguing. And the way it used to work is like you'd have these thing called the hyperlink protocols, which you would go in, it was like a text-based thing, and you could share you'd get on the Usenet groups, like these news groups, kind of like a little bit like Discord, but like general, like they'd have all these groups, and like people would share files and stories in blocks. So like if you wanted to like get a picture of Kathy Ireland, you got to go in and download 17 segments of the picture, and then like. People were like, well, this fucking sucks. So that's how browsers came about. Because, people were like, okay, instead of having this fucking thing where I have to, let's get the Usenet on actual visual interface, which like these were running on the computers. These like X terminals running Linux, and like the way to think about it is like this is like 1990, 1991. And like we have this like they call it the fishbowl, this big old room with like glass, and you have these big old terminal. These are like nice 17-inch, huge like CRT monitors.
Wow.
With like Linux and like X, or they call it X Windows, which is like Linux Windows, and you could watch TV on them. Like you had like little receiver cards for TV. You get radio. You could like get all that stuff. Like play. I said like Apple Talk games, which means like you have these like tank games called Bolo, which you can play online and play over the internet. It's like play with like 20 people. 10 people from Yale, 10 people from Harvard playing over the internet. Like it was like 1990, 1989. We're doing this shit.
That's cool as hell, man.
Like people were, I was getting the story like so people figured out people wanted the web browsers because they didn't want to have to like do the thing where like they go on the Usenet and get like 17 bits of the hot S5 picture. You want to get it in 1 bit. So in essence, what they did is we wanted something that could render visual graphics, and so they came up with the browser that would take the hyperlinks protocols and like combine them into one. And there was a thing called the Digital Archive on I forget if it was the 7th floor or the 9th floor, which was a site in out of it's one of the Swedish countries. I forget which one. And essentially, what they would do is like they would grab all the pictures that were posted on the Usenets, and they would post them like as hyperlinks. It was one of the big sites like everyone just go in. You have the chick of the day and that kind of thing. It's like, and again, like I'm, ouch it. I'm 17 years old. Fuck it. I want to see that there are different pictures of the girls. Like, that's like,
of course.
And everybody wanted to see it. It's like, yeah, that's what we're doing. It's like having the argument. It's like the guy's like, no, it's GIF. No, motherfucker, it's GIF. Like, and this is with the upgraded the GIF format. Like, and the guy that was the guy out of Stanford upgraded the JPEGs and the GIF formats, like for sharing all the stuff and all that. So this is all like we're doing that. Like the story I was telling, Doc is like I was like, so we got one of the early copies. I was like, this is like, I did Athena, that's 1991, then I went to Harvard 92. I started in 92. And then we got like, my freshman year, we got like the beta copy of Doom, right? So we were like we were literally the first people to set it up as a multi-line. So we got the beta copy, we're going to set it up, we're going to run it. It's like one of our friends said, hey, yes, we got it from a program, we're going to run this. And so we set it up on the server, the Student Center Hub at Harvard, which is like this big student center building. There's a bunch of computers and supercomputers on there. You go down there, it's like all you do your homework. So it's like 1 a.m, we get there, we set up the game, we start playing, and so what we didn't notice is like we set up the computers, but like one of the computers on the LAN was out of sequence. So what that meant is the person who was on the out of sequence computer, like I forget if it was 4 or 6 people were playing, but one of the people was out of sequence. So what that meant is like when the internet with the protocol for the multiplayer goes out, it basically sent out a package saying, do you want to play? So, and they were sending the data packages out for the game as we were playing, so obviously we were playing an MMO. And so because it was out of sequence, right, so the fifth player was actually the first on the LAN, so it would go around and then it would go and ping every computer on the sequence in a loop and around. The problem is like we were playing on the hub for the East Coast, so it was pinging every computer on the East Coast.
Crazy.
Right? Well, on LAN, it was basically going around and pinging everything. And then as it would ping, because the computers didn't understand what the fuck they were hearing, they would go, okay, and wait. And so we're playing, we're not noticing, but everything else is slowing down as we're playing. Man, this is one like, this is literally a bug. So like we play, and then all of a sudden, like, people are like people on the other computers are like, they're computers, like, dude, why is this not working? We're like, we're doing fine. And then we notice that when we go on the pause screen between levels, like, everything kind of like, oh, shit. And we notice that we shut it down immediately. And then obviously we report that, like, hey, man, you need to, like, set it up so, like, because what's happening is, like, it's sending out the ping. The newer computers could identify that it was a ping they didn't have to pay attention to. But the older computers, the old Unix and the iTerms and whatever, couldn't. They would get this piece of data and they didn't know what the fuck to do with it. And so they would start, like, lagging and sending more data. And so basically just create, like, a buddy of mine, like, used that to create a worm that he would, like, he would test out and shit like that. I was like, dude, don't do that shit. Shut that shit down. Because, again, obviously, like, when, this is 91, 92, like, there's not a lot of fucking people on the web. Right? Yeah. And, like, really, it's, like, us and, like, people in, like, other universities playing, like, Bolo games and Doom. So, like, we were setting up all these Doom games and, like, and doing that. And, like, it's just, like, wild. I remember, like, when I came back to Puerto Rico, I brought my copy of Doom. That's like when I came back for spring break, and then I come back and like everybody's playing with my copy. It's like I knew it was my copy because I had my like fucking. So like my copy was the one like probably distributed to like Latin America because I was like, we were play testing the fucking thing. We had one of the first betas of the release, and like, I literally walked it down so I could play with my buddies on the island. And then obviously I gave people copies so they could send it off the computers, and like everyone just gave, and it's like I could tell because it had my fucking shareware key. I was like,
Yeah. That's
I mean, obviously they didn't care about that shit, but like,
yeah. That's such an awesome story, and I love that. I love, like, again, like I said at the beginning, oral histories are just as important as written histories, and I'm happy to get this down and put it out there somewhere.
it's kind of funny, like the things like the early internet, the things that were like, it's funny. It's like it's like porn and
Yeah.
fiction, wrestling. These are the things that were like on the early internet. Um, and I say that because I mean, so yeah, but I mean, there's like I found them. They're like the old BBS, the wrestling BBS from like
Yeah.
1989, 1988. They're still out there. You can fucking think like you'll see like Meltzer arguing with like the fucking Booker online. You're like, what the fuck? But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like the things that we like, the things that we love, the things that people are gonna like talk about, like do on the internet.
Yeah.
Like the reason people are gonna do things is because they want things, right?
Yeah.
Like so, yeah. Web browsers came about because people wanted to be able to look at they want to be able to look at like their the swimsuit pictures. Man. Obviously not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I said this at the top of the show, but like I'm just gonna this is just an aside. So in 1899, it was the end of the Spanish-American War, and what had happened is Puerto Rico and the Philippines both had their own revolutionaries who were kind of promised that they were going to be a free country, independent. What had happened in the aftermath of that Spanish-American War is that Spain had sold both Puerto Rico and the Philippines to the United States of America. In 1945, I believe, America gave the Philippines their independence. However, to this day, into 2025, Puerto Rico is still under the control of the United States. And you, Toro, you got opinions on that.
I mean, I think part of the thing to be clear is that Puerto Rico didn't have like an active independence movement at the time of it was really Cuba was driving that thing, and Puerto Rico was like really more kind of Puerto Rico was like looking for they just got representation in the Spanish Congress, so they were like more into the autonomy part of Spain thing at the time. So effectively, they were sold to the states. They really didn't fucking want to, but again, Puerto Rico is very agrarian, so like they weren't into it. It's a really interesting history because, again, like we're strategically important to the states, or we have been, and obviously they're a colony and they take a lot of money from us.
Yeah.
Everything in Puerto Rico is driven by this thing called the Jones Act, which was enacted same session as the U.S. entering the World War I. So they put in the cabotage laws, and they made us citizens so they could draft us. And that's kind of been like we want to take money and we want to be able to draft you and bomb the shit out of some of the islands and like put that. And it's it was a relationship that had some benefit to the island for a while. I mean, like they did, do some build up, but they also did extraction. So it's gotten to the like now we're in a lot of and then a lot of the stuff that was gone. People don't know this in the history of the United States, but like Puerto Rico got the Constitution, a lot of the freedoms that they have because they shot up Congress. They fucking bombed Congress and they shot a bunch of congressmen. Fucking Truman gave us right to the Constitution and self-government, and that's how we got that.
Yeah, I believe the FBI was kind of created to watch over like the revolutionaries from Puerto Rico. I think that's part of the.
And effectively, where we're at now is, the United States, and I can tell you that, the United States is very much a broken country because like they don't have the money to grow anywhere. So essentially, there is no benefit to the relationship. And we're in a spot where like a lot of colonies of the United States are. We're talking about this on the birth rate, and I'm gonna say some things that are shocking. Like South Korea and Japan are really kind of U.S. colonies in a way. If you kind of like look at the U.S. likes to pretend it's not an empire. It's like we've got all these military bases, but we're not. But if you kind of look at it from a historical perspective, they are kind of. Yeah. There's a bunch of places like they treat it as colonies.
South Korea, Germany.
South Korea is very much, and Japan, like neither one of those is doing anything without like the U.S. like say so. And the thing that happens there, it's the thing that happened in Puerto Rico, which is like the birth rates have collapsed. It happened in Ireland too before the revolution.
Crazy.
So because effectively, people just don't, they don't see it as a line of opportunity. There's no investment going in, and there's no growth. So effectively, like people leave, and you have like these aging populations that are collapsing.
Yeah.
Japan, happening in South Korea, happening in Puerto Rico, and so effectively, we're at the spot where in Puerto Rico, it's the independent stuff is starting to get really popular. It actually, like last election, they got to second place, like close to 30%. Like there wasn't like the state candidate won. She's a complete idiot and a complete loser, and she's like not doing anything. But like people are still, the older people are still too scared to go that way. But I don't know. I mean, I think the movement still seems to be like we're going to get to a point where like it's going to come down either.
I mean,
the U.S. is going to invest us. Either the U.S. is going to tell us to go away, or we're going to tell them to go away. I think probably at some point in the next bit, because it just doesn't make it too much sense.
Yeah.
Because
in LA, I saw a billboard with Bad Bunny on it talking about independence, and I just found that kind of like, like for that to reach LA is kind of like a little bit crazy, honestly, because.
Well, the other thing that happens is a lot of people who are actually Puerto Ricans who are independence friendly leave the island. That's the thing that happens. Like if you're, it's counterintuitive, but like the people who are kind of more active and would be more politically involved end up leaving. So essentially, like if you took a poll in the States, you'd get probably a lot more support than the people who get on the island, because people who stay are the people who are more kind of independence minded and whatnot. But it is kind of like, again, where it's going to end up and how it's going to end up is that. But I think as the U.S. kind of has its own problems, right? It's gonna, eventually it's gonna, because again, there's very little benefit for the island for us in this relationship. It's like we get nothing from it. We get hosed, and really we're at the point where like it's becoming a little bit like Hawaii, where like the population is getting older, land is getting bought out by, like, it's getting kind of like more aggressively colonized, and it's I suspect somewhat unsustainable in the long term. Exactly where it's going to wind up is like I don't know. Like I do think at some point we're going to get an independence governor, and it's going to be kind of interesting how that plays out.
Yeah.
Because what generally happens is we get like anybody who gets too uppity at the governorship, like the FBI comes and starts investigating. We had an older governor who got like that happened to. Because he was talking about like doing commercial treaties with other countries, because he was kind of claiming under the Constitution he could, and then like he got investigated for corrupt, silly stuff. They never, like, here's the thing, like if somebody goes before, like, if there's a federal indictment comes down on someone, right, and the person ends up not going to jail, right, and there was a possibility it was politically come out of it, probably politically come out of it. Because generally, the way federal indictments work is when federal indictments come down, it's like the federal prosecutors don't indict you; they don't think they can get you. Okay? So when you see something like that, you're like, there was obviously something kind of motivated there, and that's what happened. I mean, I don't want to get like too into the weeds with this particular thing, but I do think, I mean, like within my lifetime, I suspect that we're going to get like, and again, Trump's tried to sell us, and like, God, that would have been nice if he actually sold us to the EU.
Yeah,
that would have been great. Actually, like, like
you guys would have had free healthcare.
Yeah, free healthcare, like a more representative government. Yes, please hurt me with that. Yeah. And then like a lot of the business on the island is on cruise ships, which are all EU based. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those interesting kind of deals. I don't know where it's going to wind up. I mean, are we in a better spot than the Philippines? We probably were 20 years ago, but I don't think we are now, because at least they control their own destiny, if that makes sense.
Hey,
Even though
Philippines also just kind of re-engaged the United States for the cross-training with the militaries. So it's kind of like the Philippines never really left, honestly, as being under the thumb of the U.S. Well, except for the little while under Duterte, but he liked Trump, so...
Yeah, it is. It's going to be something like the Commonwealth countries for the UK. It's, again, the US is really interesting because if you don't know, you think, oh, they don't have any they don't have any but really they actually kind of do. Yeah. Because if Japan has no military, And all the military bases in Japan are all U.S. bases, and
Yeah.
the U.S. basically sets most of its foreign policy. Yes, they have some, they are kind of doing commercial treaties with China, but effectively a lot of, Korea is even worse. Korea really doesn't have that much.
Yeah, without the U.S., there's no real power, and there's no firepower in Korea.
Yeah,
That's why they always come on
yeah, so
to us.
it becomes, even Europe. It's like it becomes kind of an interesting. Europe, I think, has actually had to kind of get off their ass,
Yeah, especially with
start
the rise
remilitarizing,
of
and getting a little bit.
yeah,
And but effectively, it's a really weird thing where like the U.S. is an imperial power, and essentially, and this is the thing I'm going to agree with Trump on. Trump is isolationist and doesn't necessarily want the full to be an imperial power. He's basically consolidating towards the hemisphere and drawing back and saying, "Hey, why am I running your like give me wealth if you want me to run your military and protect you, give me wealth, right?" And then like he's like defunding the CIA and defunding the U.S. The what is it the no not the CIA
USAID.
USAID, which is really like again like this is funny like this is like a funny part about like the whole thing like people are like oh the Democrats are like oh you can't defund USAID like this like I'm like coming at it from Puerto Rico or Latin American perspective it's like USAID is totally a CIA program. It's like the first like literally the first people who were like thrown out when there's a revolution in Latin America are like the Jesuits and the USA. Like the same first order is like yes please get rid of the Jesuits and get rid of like USA. Well, the first thing any revolutionary government does is because it's a fucking CIA out. Like they're running like education programs to like get everybody friendly to the yes. Like when you're telling me that's happening, it's like I'm gonna go like yes. This is I'm gonna consider that a net good. I don't want like I don't fucking want like the U.S. investing in regime change. Like I pay federal taxes, so like I don't want my taxes going to regime change in fucking Latin America. Get the fuck out of there.
I mean, I mean, it always is going to go to some regime change somewhere. Thank you, Henry Kissinger.
But you know what but you know what I mean. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, God.
yeah. I get the sentiment. I get the sentiment.
And again, I think is the current U.S. government very stupid? Yes, it's very stupid.
Oh, yeah.
I in general I do understand like some of the bigger concepts and what they're doing. They're implementing like the whole free trade, the whole anti-NAFTA thing. I get the anti-NAFTA thing. I've been anti-NAFTA. Like I used to work in manufacturing, so I've been anti-NAFTA since like the 90s.
That used to be
like,
that used to be a Democratic talking point. Actually, it's kind of crazy.
oh yeah, I mean like yeah, but okay, so but they're doing it in the dumbest. They're trying to do that in the dumbest possible way because all they're doing is creating uncertainty and questioning the economy because they're idiots, right? But like a bunch of morons. But like the concepts, I don't necessarily disagree with them.
Concepts
again,
is good.
think, like,
Concepts is understandable. In what actually is happening is like fucked.
The concept of not offshoring manufacturing and like because the big fat cats want to offshore manufacturing and not pay for labor. That's a good idea, like in concept. But the way they're doing it is the worst possible way because like nobody's gonna like start building manufacturing if you don't know what the fucking like if you don't know what the costs are gonna be tomorrow. Because he might do a tariff for like 300%, then nobody's gonna give you money to build a factory if you don't know if your market's going to even exist.
Yeah.
If you do a tariff like last week and then change it for this week, then you basically, I thought there might have been a demand for this, but now you're telling me there isn't. So why the fuck would I build this product? So like, it's a very kind of stupid thing.
It's all very destabilizing. But man, we're like all in the weeds. But like, I love it, man. I love this. I love this. I love these kind of talking points, and I love having this kind of stories being told because I never would have met you if I never watched wrestling and joined a wrestling Discord, and I'm happy I did. And what I like to do on this show is show like that wrestling fans are not just idiots, are not just angry white people. They're not angry white men. It's wrestling fans is not a monolith. It's a whole bunch of group of people from a global point of view, from different backgrounds and different ethnicities, different everywhere, and the thing that unites us is our fandom of professional wrestling, and I think that's cool.
There's an idea from Spanish literature which is called there's high art and low art, and wrestling's low art, and wrestling's for wrestling's not a white man's thing. Wrestling is a
As Vince
like
Senior
for
showed
the
us.
no, it's for the poor, the workers, the
Yeah.
rural classes. It's low art, it's low entertainment.
Yeah.
And this is why I say, like, you want guys who are appealing to, like, the blue-collar folks. And again, this is blue-collar, like, Latinos and, like, the lucha and, like, kind of, like... So, like, these wrestling companies, in this sense, like, get in their own fucking ways. And, like, you
Yeah.
want to give me a product where, like, even TK, like, gets in his own way because, like, he doesn't push his Latino guys as much as he should.
Yeah.
Give people people who look like them in heroic roles, right? And treat them seriously and treat their investments seriously because like it's kind of what people want to see, right?
Yeah. Eddie
And this is
Guerrero,
a diverse.
Batista.
This is right. Eddie Guerrero, Batista, Pedro Morales, guys who are kind
Bobo
of
Brazil.
represented, like Bruno Sammartino, guys who are representative of kind of the workers, like guys I know, guys I like.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what again, you understand what you like. I mean, like I like the Spider-Man with like the Puerto Rican Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because that's cool. I like that. I like the story too. But like it's just going to see that. And it isn't one of these. It isn't it's not a representation of diversity for sake. But like understand who your audience is and provide the audience with what they want to see. Give them appealing characters. Give them kind of relatable, good workers that produce good work, and it'll be successful, right? And you can kind of like market that. Like that's how you do this kind of thing. Yeah. But again, like it is interesting that like this is like why the top level aces for wrestling always like there's a lot of them that like cross over to like Hollywood and stardom because essentially like the guys who are drawing money at the top level who have mass general appeal and that can act on the fly and can act like do improv are great for Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Like Batista, you can think of even Stone Cold. People forget Stone Cold. That CBS wanted to do a show with him. He said no, but they wanted to do a show. He was on like a bunch of TV shows too.
He's still doing movies to now.
Right? Yeah, but I mean, like but like guys who are kind of really good at connecting.
Yeah.
And that's kind of more than anything else. That's the most valuable skill, and they kind of forget that. It's not even the look. It's you don't work from a look to connection. You work from connection to kind of building that person to a look, and that's kind of where like it's frustrating. Like it's still even like even like even AEW does that because like obviously I mean they should have probably put on the Eggman again at some point because he has that connection with the fans. He's the guy who people want to kind of cheer, and you can't betray that too much because eventually if you betray it too much, people won't trust you.
Moxley used to be that for them too.
I mean, like I think Moxley. I've said that Moxley. The end of this needs to be Moxley going away for 6 months, losing a death match and going away for 6 months, because it would be helpful to him to reset, and for the audience to have a like because sometimes you do need to go away for 6 months and kind of like rethink and reset. I think like now he's in a place where he needs to kind of rethink and refine what he wants to do.
Yeah, and man, I usually like to end these things like how I like to end my dinners with a nice sweet dessert. And Primo, I want to ask you like, what's your favorite sweet thing? What's your favorite dessert?
We're gonna do some flan. We're gonna have like a nice little flan.
Oh, I love flan.
Queso flan.
Ooh.
Queso flavored flan, which is like that means it's vanilla and they throw cream cheese in to give it like queso flavor. That's what really fucking good. My wife makes it and she makes a like a lower fat and a full fat. I'm like no, make the full fat. I want the full fat queso version. Really good stuff. If you've never had it, like it is extremely good with the caramel and like the soft custard. So good. If not that, I mean like a key lime or a cheesecake works too. But like if I had my druthers, queso flan.
Yeah.
I'm the queso.
Oh man, okay. I'm gonna go to my nearest Puerto Rican bakery and like look for queso flan.
You can do pumpkin flan, queso flan, or like regular vanilla flan. Any of them will work, but like queso is actually like my favorite.
Oh man, I love flan. Flan is big in the Philippines too. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah. Is that a Spanish thing?
I think it's probably coming from Spanish cooking.
Alright.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would assume it's Spanish cooking
Yeah.
coming in. Are you guys doing like is Philippines doing a lot of plátano too?
Plátanos. So we do fried plantains. We do that. We do banana leaf with like vinegar and soy sauce. We have like a we have the small bananas. They're called sabas. They have the texture of
You
a
do like
plant.
the
Yeah.
amarillos thing, which is like the sweet plantains fried.
Yeah. We do that in like an egg roll wrap, and we put a sugar
Yeah, but
glaze
you're
on
not
it.
but you're not doing the mofongo or the mango, which is a very Dominican and Puerto Rican thing.
Mofong.
Like they do
Well,
the
yeah, I don't think we do mofongo, but I won't be surprised if
mofongo. By the
somebody
way,
tries.
mofongo is double fried plantain.
Yeah.
So you double fry the plantain, you put some bacon fat in it, and like it gets nice and crunchy bits. It's really good. And
Oh
then
man,
like
I'm
the
gonna throw that in
mango,
my breakfast now.
the way the Dominicans do it, they do mango. Mango is they'll do the mash. It's basically plantain mash with like onions, and they don't fry it. It's basically just the boiled mashed plantain.
Yeah.
Actually, really good because essentially the mango is like what you would do mango and then you would use the mango to make mofongo.
Oh man.
But you can actually like instead of just doing the mofongo, you can just do the mango, which is like basically like a mashed potato version of plantain, and it's nice and salty and it's really
That's
good. Like mango is. If you get like we used to have like the Dominican cleaning lady.
yeah.
And my parents had that. Like both my grandparents had their own, and they would like do the typical frituras and like mango and the Dominican cooking. And then like my grandfather had like all sorts of plantain on that, so we get like all the little frituras, which is like the pumpkin fritters and like all the different plantain fritters, sweet or sour.
Yeah.
Really good. That stuff is really great too.
But one
You
of
ever, you ever
my
had barriguitas? By the way, speaking of sweet things, you ever had barriguitas de vieja?
what's that?
That would be old lady. The English word would be old lady bellies. But those are like pumpkin fritters. Basically, you take a pumpkin and you do a pumpkin mash and you fry it like it would be
Oh
like a
yeah.
same way you would do a bacalao like a cod fritter, but you do it with like pumpkin. So you do a pumpkin fritter and then you throw in like powdered sugar on top of it.
Oh
Really great shit.
yeah. They
You can have it
actually
like you can have it like if you have like with like a sweet tomato sauce or like a sweet like a sweet and sour sauce. Oh
Yeah.
god, that's really good.
they were doing that at the Cuban bakery next to me called Portos. I'm not sure if you had that where you are, but they were doing that.
I've been to Portos many times.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've been to Portos in LA actually many times.
Yeah, I live right next to a Portos, and man, those those Cuban breakfast sometimes they have like a Puerto Rican. They had that. I ordered what you were saying the pumpkin fritters. Oh, coño, that was so freaking good, man. Oh,
Yeah, the pumpkin fritters are really fucking good.
and
I'm trying to remember. Portos had the really good quesitos. Obviously.
yeah,
Everyone
the
loves the
quesitos
But they
and
also have they have the pastelillos de guayaba too.
yeah,
The guava fritters. Those are
yeah.
really good.
Those that's always what's on my thing is getting the guava
I
cheese.
don't remember. I think they have the alcapurrias, which alcapurrias is gonna be like it's either gonna be like yautía mash with meat on the inside or the plantain mash. The plantain mash fried with like it's like a little tamal.
Yeah.
Like a plantain tamal with like the meat on the inside.
Yeah, those
I know they
are.
have it.
Yeah, they have the tamales there. They use plantain instead of like using a corn. So like my wife got confused about like why did the tamale taste like a banana, but I ate them up, man. Those are so good.
I've never been there in Christmas. They might have pasteles. Pasteles are the and they do this in Cuba, like in Cuba and Puerto Rico, which is like pasteles are gonna be like they're gonna take the plantain leaf and it's gonna be like a cake with like the mash,
Yeah.
and then you put the meats and the spices in it, and then you wrap it up in the leaf with a string, and you boil them, and then you basically have to cut them open, eat them in pasteles. They have those at Christmas. Really nice.
Whoa.
Like I might have pasteles. I might actually have pasteles. I don't. Well, no, I don't have pasteles in my fridge. My mom has pasteles. I saw them like I was at my mom's house. She had pasteles from Christmas in the fridge.
Yeah.
They'll keep like yeah. So like a lot of like really nice like fritters. And like if you're next to Portos, like try some of the different stuff because like the sour stuff is actually really good. And
Oh
then,
yeah. Yeah.
So we got off topic there. Like yeah, and obviously they have the mayo ketchup too. So we gotta put the mayo ketchup on.
Oh man. One of my I know this is off topic, but like on my bucket list of places to go is like there's that row of lechon places in Puerto Rico. I know I saw like it on like
Yeah, yeah. I
Anthony.
go. That is that's Llevarte. It's called Llevarte.
Yeah,
So
cause like
basically,
yeah,
when you're driving from San Juan, like everybody, every fucking food blogger who comes to the island does this, where they drive from San Juan to Ponce, and there's like from the capital of the north, capital of the south, and then
yeah,
in the middle of the island, the mountain, there's a place called Guawati. Basically, turn on, and it's all like these like roadside stands with lechon. There's one, the one I like is the one they always go to, which is great because it's like you drive in, and there's like this great view of the mountain. And then, but
yeah,
if you keep driving, there's the place. What's the name of the Baca. So there's Baca Brava at the end. Baca Brava is like will come in and like it's one of these like will kill you with meat.
yeah,
Baca Brava is the basic like you go in, you pay, and they'll keep bringing you meat until you die. Essentially,
yeah,
like a, and it's
yeah,
like that's really great. But like I really like I kind of forget the one I always go to because like those are when I take my family. But I know this because the bloggers all go there because you go in and it's got like these. You'll see it. It's like you walk in. It's like a little shop, a wooden
yeah,
place. It's got the kitchen on the side. It's got tables, but it's got like an open balcony, and you can kind of like it's hanging over the
yeah,
mountain. You can actually see the entire thing.
yeah. Cause
You
that's
get like you get like white rice with they'll serve you the white rice with the boiled piece of like pork fat. Oh, that's
yeah.
really good. Which
Oh my.
the
So
boiled pork fat, like little blocks of pork fat, and then like the little piece that's really fucking good.
oh
Like, they'll
yeah,
give you like a arroz con gandules, which is like the arroz with like the gandules. What is the name of a gandula in English? It's like the green, I forget, petit pois. No, it's not petit pois. It's gandules. So like it's a yellow rice. So it's rice with like the sazon, the yellow with
yeah,
the sazon gives it the orange color, and then you put the gandules, which are the green beans, and then you put the pieces of tocino, which is basically you take the pork fat and you cut it like little
yeah.
cubes, you throw it in, so you have like the nice like soft tocino, like soft
And it
fat, and
like
then
melts. It like
and
oh
you have that with the lechon that's just cut off the bone. It's really
yeah. Cause that's also something
and you know,
our two countries have in common is the lechonerias. Cause yeah, I just love having this kind of like talk with you, Toro, because like there's so much cross breeding between our nations, and honestly our fandom also. There's a lot of cross breeding in it, so like just to have these kind of different connections, man, it opens my heart, and like I just want to like
yeah.
thank you for coming on and talking to me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. We should do it again sometime. Like when I have a little more time, we can have like another topic, and we can kind of go into some of the deeper topics that we didn't touch. And
Yeah,
it was really fun. So thanks for having me, Doc.
yeah. Do you want to plug your Twitter again? Because I would
No,
love
I
to go
think
on
like
there.
yeah. I mean, people want to hit it. Like my stuff is American Numbers on Twitter. I also do stuff for. I am a C-level officer for my company, which is Sports Grid, and I'll put protections there. And I also do stuff for PayDirt, which is behind a paywall for DFS if you're into that. And again, like if you hit me up or you have questions, if you have questions and you need help, I can probably like have a conversation with you and help you. Like I like doing stuff. I like doing interesting and new problems because it keeps me fresh.
Yeah, man. Again, like gracias, primo. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I like to have everybody on here and give everybody a chance to tell their story. And man, your story is epic, brother. It's an epic story, brother. You have no idea. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.